Cajun Cardboard, thank you so much for joining me. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic and excited to join your show. I know I've had you on my channel a couple times, so I'm very thrilled to be on your show.
Yep. So for anybody that's watching that's not familiar with Bryan, first of all, I'd be stunned. But I'll share the link down in the show notes so you can follow him on Instagram, YouTube, anywhere else that you're regularly.
I'm too dumb. I'm too old to learn new tricks, Jake. You say sometimes TikTok. I'm never
sometimes,
TikTok.
You never know.
Never anything. Just YouTube and Instagram, man. That's all I can keep up with. So that's all I'm doing.
Well, yeah, you've had me on your show a number of times, and I'm so bad at returning favors. So here we are. I've been on yours like 3 times, and I don't do a lot of interviews, but there was a topic that came up that I was like, I think this is one that you and I are the right people to chat about it. So, we're gonna, after we talk about the obligatory big news of every basketball fan's timeline, Luka, we'll dive into our love letter, our Valentine's Day gift for Beckett, and our hopes that maybe somebody's listening that will institute a change or two and make things better. But I don't know if you can see, I've stacked up like a vast quantity of the Beckett slabs I have in my collection. So yes, I have a vested interest in Beckett's success over the long run. But I think we're both coming at it from the same point of we have a lot of nostalgia for the brand and the man that started it.
100%, a lot of nostalgia, man.
So yeah, the first order of business. So I've got a card here just to kick us off. What are your thoughts on Luka and the trade that sent him to LA in exchange for AD and some other little side dressings?
Well, let me start by saying I'm old, and I was on a weekend trip in Houston, and I didn't find out about it until I woke up the next morning, and I got a message, and I was like, ha, it's one of those deals. There's all these NBA, intel pages or whatever, and it's always like, this happened, but it's really a rumor that this could happen.
Yep.
And then I got another one, and then another one, and another one, and I was like, damn, this really happened. All right, let me dig in and see exactly what the heck came back in return. And that's when my mind started racing, and I just couldn't get my brain around it, man. I'll be honest with you. So I think long-term, it's a huge win for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Short-term, I'm not sure it's a Grand Slam home run. But once again, the Lakers have somehow tiptoed their way into extending, them being a franchise with an absolute mega, uber, super huge star for at least it looks like probably 6 or 7 more years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had the same exact experience as you. I saw it in the morning, and I was like, wait a second. And I actually saw it. So I was on YouTube. I think it was Basketball Time Machine. It's a channel that usually talks about players from yesteryear, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. So to see that he had a video and Luka was a topic, I was a little bit curious. I almost didn't click on it, but then I was like, let's see what this is. And he even said, I usually don't cover this type of stuff, but this is such a massive story. I have to touch on it. So as soon as he started talking about the trade, I was like, this can't be real. Yeah. So I immediately, went and checked, what did Shams report it? Is it on ESPN? Is it on NBA.com? And sure enough, it was. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one that, for the long term, it's going to be good. I think I had sent you a message. I'm very confident there's going to be another deal coming. Absolutely. Yeah, because they've got to get a big. And if they can get a good big and they can't, gut their team to do it, but if I think there's a few names that I've been thinking about that I think would be obvious fits, but can they get them right? There's always the question of who's available. I've been hearing a lot of people say Vooch is available. I don't think he's the fit. So a guy like Walker Kessler, can they get a young guy who it seems like he's got a lot of potential as being a really big defensive stopper in the middle? I don't know. Nick Claxton out in Brooklyn,
Portland's got 3 centers last time. I checked, right? Klingon, Robert Williams, I believe.
Yep, if he can stay healthy.
And Aiden,
Yep.
The thing is, oh my God, Jake, as currently constructed, LeBron plays no defense. Austin Reeves can't play defense. Mm-hmm. Luka Doncic chooses to and can't play any defense.
Right.
Those 3 guys, if you're going to funnel people into the paint, you don't want to funnel them to Nikola Vujovic, okay? You probably want you
or Jackson
want
Hayes,
Anthony Davis there, to be quite honest with you. a Gafford, a Lively, which I was shocked they didn't get either one of those dudes back in return. But again, you can't shoot a lot of bullets at what the Lakers did, because in my opinion, it was an absolute no-brainer. Yes, before you even get the words out of your mouth, the Lakers, especially, they didn't give up Reeves and they didn't give up that other first-round pick.
Right.
For me, that makes no sense whatsoever to the Mavericks. I also don't understand why the Mavericks didn't just open it up to 27 teams and to the highest bidder. There's only 2 teams that I think would hang up on them if they called and said, hey, Luka's available. I think that OKC hangs up because they're not giving you SGA, and I think the Spurs hang up because they're not giving you Wembanyama.
Sure.
Celtics probably at least listen to what you're saying, but they're coming off a title, and Tatum's untouchable in Boston. So maybe 26 teams take that phone call.
Yeah. And the thing that I had heard is, and I don't know how true this is, but I had heard that the Mavs intentionally targeted AD, like that's who they wanted if they're going to move Luka. So in that case, like if you're taking a shot at the guy you want, he's still like, you've got to ask for more. So that's the shock to me also. Like when you sit there and look at the compensation that teams got back, for Mikal Bridges, for Rudy Gobert, the list goes on. You just look at it and just like, one of these is not like the others. So
and Doncic is not like those as a player. Like Doncic should have been one of the largest packages ever received in return for any individual player that's ever been traded. Scoring champion, 5-time All-NBA, I think. Coming off of finals where he carried the team to the finals. There's a million reasons why I'm shocked. I think the Mavs perspective, I think there might be more fire where there's this much smoke. Maybe Doncic is impossible to deal with behind the scenes.
Maybe.
My perception of him is he's at times very difficult to watch because of the way he treats referees, because of the way he takes plays off on defense pretty regularly for a young guy. For a guy that's 20, his mid-20s, who's trying to win a title, he sure doesn't look real interested in doing the things he needs to do on the defensive side to win the title. He'll never be a great defender, but he's a big dude. He can defend. He can be physical when he wants to. For somebody who is right there on the doorstep, those are some, I would say, even personality traits that maybe if those carry over, maybe that's how he is with his teammates. Maybe that's how he is with Kidd. Maybe that's how he is with management. Maybe they're just wanting to get out of the Doncic game. But even then, you got to get more. You've got to get more, because there's a lot of people that want to get into the Doncic game and hitch their wagon to him and try to win this thing.
Yep. I'm right there with you. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out for them, for Dallas, for the rest of the teams that are making moves. I know we heard about one with the Spurs and the Bulls and the Kings. So there's more that are going to come. And by the time that you're watching this, we might already know how all the dust is settled, and some of the stuff that we're talking about might have already taken place. So,
Jake, that's a huge trade. Fox to the Spurs.
Yeah,
that would normally be holy cow news, but it came in such short succession right after this absurd. This is the biggest trade of my lifetime, I think. Right? I've been watching NBA for a long time. I don't remember another one where someone in Luka's position was traded. I don't remember that.
No, it'd have to be like a Jordan, a Kobe. Somebody. Again, he's easily a top 5 best player in the league right now.
Can't argue he's not top 5. You could argue he's 2 or 3. I don't think anybody's right now arguing anybody's better than Jokic. Maybe 5 years ago we'd argued. I think Jokic is unparalleled. I think he's clearly the best player in the world, in my opinion. Wembanyama is probably the most untouchable asset in the NBA. And then Luka's on a short list coming up, man, of guys that are untouchable and or the best players in the world. In his prime. Not even really to his prime. NBA prime now is like what, 26, 27, 28, 29?
Yeah.
He's 25. He's 26 years old, whatever, Ooh.
He's still got time to grow into. Yes. It's gonna be interesting. And anybody who's a Lakers hater is probably not feeling so great right now. But
that's right. Boston fans. Oops. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So talking about the B in Boston, let's move to the B in Beckett. So, for some people, if you're watching this, I'd be shocked if you're not aware of the trajectory of the brand of Beckett. But, as longtime collectors, we have a lot of nostalgia for the brand, the magazines, Dr. Beckett. And in recent years, there's been no shortage of news around Beckett as the brand, but almost all of it has not been good news.
That's right.
It's been calamity after calamity, self-inflicted injuries, all kinds of stuff. So I thought we could kind of brainstorm some ideas of what Beckett could do to improve their processes and procedures and their brand and their identity in the hobby. My focus more so, and this doesn't have to be yours, I'm curious in your opinions, is on the BGS, the grading aspect. But I think that there's some stuff that they could do. I don't think that they could do everything that we're probably going to throw out. But picking a couple and chipping away at some of them, because some of them are going to be, stuff that's going to be cost cutting. Some of them might be labor or resource intensive. So I think that some of these might be easy wins for them. So I'll let you kick it off. What's an idea that you have that they could do?
Well, first, let me just start by saying how much respect I have for Dr. Beckett. I've listened to, I'm not friends with him. I've never had him on the show, which is actually a great idea. I should probably try to. I don't know if you have, but every time I listen to him, he's everything that I hope that I am as a communicator and as a business person and just as a general constituent of the hobby, right? He's thoughtful. He's obviously incredibly knowledgeable. He's well-spoken. He provides facts to back up his assertions and his opinions. I remember him weighing in on the Star versus Fleer deal, and just listening to him speak about that. It was like, wow, this guy's he's not out to get clicks. Obviously, he doesn't care about any of that stuff. He really thinks this stuff through, and he's got a really, well-founded opinion, regardless of whether I agree with the opinion or not. So I admire and respect him. I grew up, I'm older than you, man, a lot older than you. So I remember, we can go way, way back, but let's just go way back to 2003 when I was ripping Topps Chrome packs and pulling out LeBron, Melo, Wade, and Bosch rookie cards. Those cards were immediately going off to BGS, not PSA. Why? Because BGS was king. Why? Because everybody loved their slabs. They looked professional. They were thicker. They were sturdier. And that was what was bringing in the most money in return. It wasn't even an option. It wasn't even a consideration back in 2003 for me to send these shiny 2003 Topps Chrome cards of these great rookies to PSA. Beckett was the king, the top dog. There was even an era where people were crossing PSA 10s trying to get BGS 9.5s on their 86 Fleer Jordan rookie cards. That sounds like, bizarro world, Twilight Zone stuff right now for us to say that. But that time existed. It really did. So Beckett is incredibly nostalgic for me. It was the first grading company that I ever had any experience with. To this day, if you're just asking me based on aesthetics, texture, feel, sturdiness, quality, I think that Beckett's slabs are the best. I think they look the best. I think they feel the best. There are pros and cons, to the thick slab or whatever. But right now, for me, the most valuable card that I own is in a Beckett slab, and I'm not crossing it.
Right.
If you collect in the '90s, you better get to be okay with Beckett. You may not prefer it, but you better be okay with it, right? Because Jake, so many of the cards that you and I want, the pennies and the McDyces and the Kobe's and the Jordans, and they're in Beckett slabs. So unless you plan to go crack everything, you better be okay with Beckett slabs at the very least, So it screams nostalgia for me. It was my first love as far as the grading goes, and I'll never forget those days. And, for that reason, I'm happy to be on the show and try to save them, try to figure it out. Again, I wonder how Dr. Beckett feels about the current status of the company and the fact that it's got the name Beckett in it. He's probably, not thrilled about that, because I don't think it would be where it is today if he was still involved in running the show.
Oh, I can't imagine it would at all. Yeah. I'd be interested to hear his feelings on some of the stuff, but I think, knowing him, he probably would take a kind of the middle road and not be too critical, at least publicly, knowing him. But yeah, so what's one thing we could give them to start to improve?
Well, let's just start with a customer service panel that works. I I know this is gonna be hard to believe. The only cards I send to Beckett, and I just sent one order. I've sent one order in maybe the last 2 or 3 years. Were the Michael Jordan oddball cards that, for whatever peculiar reason, PSA decides not to grade. So there's certain Michael Jordan cards from the 90s, and you may have experienced this as well. PSA won't grade those cards. I don't know why. They just won't, right? So that, relatively short list of cards, I shipped them off to BGS because I'm a graded card collector. You and I differ in that way. For me, I need closure. I gotta know what the grade is. And even if I don't know what the grade is, I gotta protect the thing. I just have to do that. So I get everything graded that I intend to own and keep. And so that's the only time I've even used Beckett. So from what I've heard from other people's input is that their customer service situation is atrocious. Not good at all.
Yeah, no, trying to get through to them on the phone, I've heard, is a nightmare. And I know from my experience, I like you, I think I've sent one submission to them in the last 3 years. I know I sent 1 or 2 before the pandemic. I think it's only been 1 since.
What was it and why?
Yeah, so it was PC stuff. It was a bunch of pennies. I had my StarQuest Gold. I had a Legacy from '96 in there. A couple of buddies had some stuff that was autographed. They wanted to get the autograph grade on it. They liked the Beckett slab with the subgrades, and wanted the autograph graded as well. So it was a lot of basketball, mostly 90s, and I'm trying to remember. There's probably a dozen cards total in the submission, but it's all PC stuff, right? Yeah, like you were saying, like it's stuff that I felt as though I wanted to have protected. I like the inner sleeve in the slabs. I like the thickness. It feels sturdy. It feels safe. And it also scratches the nostalgia itch, but it is very worrisome at times. Like, it feels like when you send stuff off, you're just sending to a black box. You don't know how long it's going to take. You can't get any communication. Like with the PSA submissions, it hasn't always been this way, but they have the status tracker, so you can see kind of where it is in the process. There, at least when I submitted, and from what I've heard recently, there's nothing like that Beckett offers you. So you just send it off and you just sit and wait, and they will sometimes give you like an estimated, like, it should be 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, but like, you don't know if it's trending closer to the 6 or closer to the 9, or if they're actually backlogged and it's going to be longer than 9. You just wait and pray. And if it's PC stuff, like, you're not going to be worried about the value if it goes up or down dramatically. But if it's stuff that you're looking to sell, 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, none of these flippers, even there's flippers where I want to sell this in 2 weeks. I got to get it back graded, sell it. Those are flippers. And then there's also investors, which is a much bigger number of people where it's like, I'm going to sell this in the next 2 to 10 months or whatever, right? You're not using BGS for that for a lot of reasons. Number one, you maximize value with PSA, and that premium of PSA over BGS seems to be growing. And then BGS takes forever. Yeah. Man, Jake, when I got my little email that said your cards are coming, I was like, God, I forgot I sent them. That's how long it was. Here's another thing. The interface when you submit cards with PSA has become really quick and really efficient and really easy to use. And it shows you a picture of the card when you type it in. It gives you, hey, is this the one you're talking about? Right. Click. Now your description is perfect. And PSA makes mistakes. I get PSA labels back all the time that are wrong, but I also send a lot of cards to PSA. And they grade a lot more cards than Beckett. I can't remember what it is now, but it's magnitudes more cards than Beckett. So they're going to be prone to mistakes, and everybody is. But I miss it, man. I miss that being an option. Do you remember, like, if we took a time machine, and I want to see if you and I are on the same page. Let's say 2017. Okay. And somebody new in the hobby would come to you and say, Jake, I know you collect 90s basketball cards and do some grading. Where should I send this thick Reggie Miller 1998 game jersey card? Should I send this to PSA or Beckett? What would you have told them?
Easy Beckett. Anything thick.
Beckett. Why? Because thick cards go to Beckett and thin cards go to PSA. Thin, shiny cards go to PSA. Thick cards go to Beckett. That's gone. No one on earth would ever suggest that. I would never tell somebody new to the hobby to send their cards to Beckett. How about this? People bitch because PSA is slamming them, and you've seen some of my grade reveal videos. I get murdered too, right, from PSA. Beckett's worse. I get worse grades from Beckett than PSA, and it's really not close.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting worse returns, and the cards, even if I got great returns, would be worth less money. If a BGS 9 is worth less than a PSA 8, and PSA 8 is pretty much about as bad as you get if you've got a decent looking card.
Sure.
And it takes forever, and you don't know when you're going to get them back. Why in the hell would I use Beckett?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so I've actually got a card here. Oh, where is it? It's right behind me. That I think is a great example of that. That I sent this. It is a jumbo, but it got a BGS 7. Now, this is a chrome jumbo refractor. And, I wanted this slab to protect it. I didn't, these things do get banged up. But this thing got a 9.5 on centering. Okay, expect it to be good. 7.5 on edges. I can't see anything glaring on the edges, front or back. A 6.5 on corners, and there is not a white or rounded corner on this puppy. And a 7.5 on surface. Okay, listen, whatever.
6.5 on corners. I should be able to see it from here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That should be so bad on a relatively modern card. You got to be kidding me. I mean, I know it's a refractor. It's a thick card stock. You're going to see a 6.5 corner. Like, you're going to be able to see that with the naked eye. No jeweler's loop required. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, like I wasn't mad because it's PC, so it's whatever. I just wanted it slabbed up. You can't, for jumbo cards, finding top loaders to put these things in is a nightmare. But when I got it back, I'm just like, really, guys? Like, come on. So yeah, there's stuff like that makes you scratch your head. And obviously, like, it's nice having the transparency of the subgrades. But it brings me to my next point of, like, you have the transparency that no other grading company had offered you until more recently. But as far as like the big three established brands, nobody else, or actually you can even throw CGC in there, the big four established brands, nobody's giving you subgrades except for Beckett. Yeah. And I don't feel as though they do an appropriate job marketing what they offer in terms of like the subgrades and having the transparency, but also a PSA 10 is a gem mint card. A BGS 10 is a pristine card. And then BGS also has the 10 black label. So you don't have the same, like a 10 for Beckett is basically an 11 for PSA, right? Not saying that a PSA 10 can't cross to a Beckett 10. It absolutely can. But they don't market that efficiently, where it's just like, I get if people would rather a gem mint.
Period, Jake.
Well, yeah. Exactly. So marketing is a huge gap for them that could help, exponentially if they just educate, like you talked about, new people coming into the space. If they're looking to grade their cards, they're going to see PSA. If they see anything else, it might be SGC. But it's stopping after those two because they don't hear anything about it. And CGC hasn't been in the space long enough to have a foothold yet. Yeah. Right. So
their marketing, it's non-existent. Yeah. I would, I'm not saying I would do this, but if they wanted to grow their brand and endear themselves to the hobby, they should really be posting every single black label sale that ever happens, because that's really the only good thing that Beckett's got going for them right now is they've got that black label. Hell, even the PSA 10 is catching the BGS 10. It used to be, factors more. Like the BGS 10 might be 3x a PSA 10 on certain cards, right? But now it's like people would almost rather the PSA 10 because there's no Beckett set registry, and there is a PSA set registry, and there's no money back guarantee, and there's PSA money back guarantee. We can talk about that. That's a big deal.
It is.
But look, in my experience, BGS black labels, if I had to guess, and I'm guessing here because I've never received one back ever. Have you?
Nope, never.
I've graded probably, I would say 1,000 cards with BGS over the last however many years. I've never gotten one. I bet you black labels are 1 in 5,000.
Yeah.
I bet it's a 1 in 5,000 chance. I'm curious to what your viewers that are watching, put in the comments what you think a black label is. Maybe there's an answer somewhere on the internet that I haven't looked, found. I bet it's 1 in 5,000. I bet it might be more. I bet it might be worse than that.
It's one of those that I've had cards that I've sent off, and I've been like, some of the metal explosion that are made out of metal card stock that they grade well. And I've sent those. I've got a bunch of, not Penny, other players that I'm like, I want to send these to Beckett to try to get a black label.
Yeah.
And that's the sole reason, is because the black labels are so hard to come by. It's just like, well, pick a card that grades well and hope for the best. but yeah, so I think your next point that you're getting to with the money back guarantee is a great one. It's something that annoys me because a lot of times if I do hear somebody trying to promote Beckett, they'll say, well, you don't get upcharged, right? And that's a plus for Beckett.
Yeah.
But what I'll say to that is that's not completely true. So
Okay.
when you go to submit your cards to Beckett, you have the option of adding insurance to the card. And when you add insurance, it's based on the value that you put on the card. Now, you can choose not to put any insurance on it,
Yeah.
but then you run the risk. If anything happens to that submission, once it's in the hands of Beckett, it's on you. And I've had friends that have sent autos. They're trying to get them authenticated of not card stuff, other stuff, because Beckett auto authentication is definitely top notch. And they lost the stuff. And this person didn't put high enough insurance on it. So Beckett was like, we'll give you what you insured it at.
Declared value.
And that's it, right? And so you're out the auto. You're out really the value of what the auto would be if it got authenticated. But that's a choice that you have. So if you don't insure it, you're running that risk. But if you do insure it, now your price is typically going to be at least as high as it would be with PSA or anybody else who's going to give you your money back and have it insured. In a lot of cases, in my experience, it was higher, right? Because I was like, the stuff I'm going to be sending off, that StarQuest Gold, I can't replace it if they lose it. Yeah. So I mean, at least I could have the money, so I could have a shot. Maybe if I can find another person that has one that they'd be willing to give it up. But I'm not gonna risk that.
Yeah.
But with PSA, that's already built in. That's already baked into the price.
Yeah. Let me tell you one good thing, and let's see if you can maybe figure it out. What's the one good thing? Like, this was a 100% home run. It didn't change who I send my cards to for grading. And I guess I should say, my channel and as a content creator, I am an affiliate partner with PSA. So let me just get that out there. Right? I always try to be transparent about that. And I still collect the hell out of Beckett. Let's be very clear. But as far as grading new stuff, I am sending almost everything to PSA. But what's the one good thing, Jake, that you can remember Beckett doing? I'm going to say it was in the last 18 to 24 months that they changed. That they very rarely change anything, right? They're almost like old-fashioned banking institutions in the United States. Nothing ever changes, right? They move at the same pace they did in the 50s. What's one thing they changed? Can you think of it? I know something that they did change that everybody was 100% in favor of.
I mean, the only thing that I can think of that they changed was they rolled back some of the changes that they had flirted with making. I can't think of any.
Not making those changes, yes, that was good. But this is the change they actually made. The BGS old white labels are out.
Yes.
Now they're silver. Right. So pull that card back out that you had, that 7.5. So when you put that up to the screen, that's a nice, clean silver label that's got the same texture and same color as a BGS 9 would. I've got one, if you want to screen share, that I can show you. It's a BGS old school white label that I think looks terrible.
I've got one. Let's see. I've got one of mine over here that I picked up recently.
I can't remember when, but I was guessing it's maybe 18 to 24 months ago that they changed that.
So this is the white.
Exactly. There's the old white. And if you can't really zoom in, but if you really zoom in, it's like, it looks like paper. And it's funny that we're bitching about the label when every single PSA label is white paper.
Sure.
It's like, well, what are you complaining about? But, I think it's a good move for Beckett. That's one good thing they did. So they should give some credit for that for sure. Going back to your deal about changing the grading scale, they really, they prematurely ran that up the flagpole. They really should have reached out to some folks and asked about what the hobby response would be. I don't even think they considered the havoc that change would have made on the millions of cards that are already in Beckett slabs. Before they started talking about that label change. I never do videos on modern events or current events or whatever you call it. I did a video on that. That's how revolutionary that change would have been and how much of a mistake it would have been. So if I'm talking about some modern event, that means it's something crazy. So I'm glad they didn't go through with that change. But again, I mean, they're just a sinking ship. It sounds like the dude that founded it was or not that founded it, that's Dr. Beckett, but it's running the show right now is not a good dude, it sounds like. I mean,
legal issues.
Or fraud or something,
Yeah, it seems like his legal issue started before getting involved with Beckett and hasn't stopped.
The commingling of funds, maybe poaching Beckett loan funds to do other non-Beckett stuff with that money. I don't know, something like that. So
it's not good.
Yeah, I think he might get. Is the guy in jail?
I think he might be heading there. I don't know if he's
Okay.
there right
He
now.
was there. Maybe he's heading
Maybe.
there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never good when the person who's in the owner's chair is either heading to or in prison.
Fair point. That's usually the case.
And it's one of those things that I've also thought about it from a standpoint of like, my own career. And it's like, I would love to work for a brand that, I can really have some passion behind.
Yeah.
And, really like, okay, hey, I really want to see this succeed. Would I want to go work for Beckett right now? Like, I can only imagine the chaos there, and the people that I've known that have worked there, they've all left.
Here's what's funny: if you ask you and I, if someone asked you and me to talk and endorse and speak positively about our '90s cards that are in our collection that are graded by Beckett, that's easy. I can do that all day long. And when new people in the hobby say, well, I don't want to buy that card because it's in a Beckett slab, I'm like, man, I don't think I would take that approach to it. I would definitely look at it because it is what it is. We're all behind that, right? What we're not behind is, if I get a raw, fill in the blank of, whatever, not the metal explosion, but let's say I got a raw penny championship PMG, I'm sending that thing to Beckett.
Right.
I'm sending that thing straight to PSA, man. There's no question about it. I'm sending it straight to PSA.
And we've seen situations where like people have gotten PMGs graded with Beckett. Let's say they get, let's say they get an 8, right? And they will take that 8, which is a good grade on a PMG, and they'll send it over to PSA, and PSA will give them, let's say, a 6.5, right?
Let's say,
and they're happy, right? Right. This is what I was going to say. They're happy with a 6.5 from PSA over the BGS 8 on the PMG.
Yeah.
And it's interesting dichotomy of decision when you're sitting there looking at, I would take less from a different company than I would from taking more from you, right? Yep. I just can't fathom that being the decision, just 10 years ago, right? You'd take the higher grade regardless of if it's PSA or BGS.
That's the way it used to be. Yes.
Yeah.
Not
so
anymore.
No. And it's just like it's wild. So I sit there and think about it from a standpoint of how do you win back people like us who are fans of the brand, who have been fans, would love to be able to put our full-throated support behind them once again. Yeah. Because like you mentioned the grading scale, like that lost a lot of people. One of the other things too is when they rolled out this brand new B. That was their big thing at the Atlantic City National. I don't know if you remember that. And like the mock-ups of the slabs, I heard the whole fiasco, but like the B was a big thing. That was like, I remember hearing a lot of people around the national talking about it and just saying like, we've been waiting for a big announcement, a big improvement from Beckett, and this is what they've got for us.
You think I care about that?
Right. Nothing about customer service, right? Yeah. Customer service was an issue then. It is still, right? Nothing about speed of service, trying to get things back to you quicker. Nothing about reducing the cost, right? That's another thing they could do. They could look at whether they improve customer service, which is going to be capital intensive, whether they improve turnaround time, which is going to be capital intensive, or they reduce their cost, which is not going to cost more money, but it's going to obviously reduce their margins. Yeah. Like those are 3 things that people immediately would get excited about. Even if you just say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a status tracker. Things aren't going to be any faster, but you're just going to know where they are in the process. Yeah. People will be excited about that.
Baby step, yeah.
Yeah, just pick
one of them. They take longer. You don't know when they're coming back. They grade tougher, in my experience, and they're worth less.
Right.
What do you mean? How do you like this ship has sailed, man? I don't know, Jake. I don't know. We can send them all the love letters and all the pen pals we want, man. I don't think there's a way to undo what's done. The margin between PSA 10 and BGS 9.5 is drastic. It's so drastic that when I buy one of the cards that I need from the 90s and a BGS 9.5 minimum gem slab, I am laughing. I am so happy because it's like sometimes 1/5, 1/6 of a PSA 10 copy. So I am thrilled beyond belief to do it. So I don't know. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I was arguing with a couple of mutual friends of ours, Stanley, Frankie, Josh Dawson. This morning we were texting back and forth, and one of those gentlemen was pondering. He said, "I don't want to cross." It was a rare Jordan. This was like low serial number Jordan. He's like, "I don't want to cross it from a BGS to a PSA because it'll go from a BGS 9 to a PSA 8." And all three of the rest of us were like, why not?
Right.
PSA 8's worth more than a BGS 9 on
Yep.
that card. He's like, no way. And I was like, dude, here's the data.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you. On big, important, super rare cards, PSA 8's probably going to beat a BGS 9 because if you cross a 9, oftentimes it's going to go to a 7, 7.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, to your point, I agree with you in the sense that like those 5 issues we laid out, I mean, the ship has sailed on those. I think the way back is just incremental improvements, right? Just slow and steady. We're gonna write this in, but the thing is they have to have somebody who's in the captain's seat that's ready for the next 5 years to be really difficult for very lean margins. And I don't know if whoever's in charge, we just talked about their potential legal woes, if they're willing to let go of the ownership, to let somebody come in that's willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, let me put on let's put on our business hat, right?
Yep.
So a few years ago, I say few, it's been a lot of years ago now, I guess, but collectors/PSA, right? Collectors bought SGC.
Yep.
But at first everybody was like, oh, all your SGC blah, blah, blahs are going to automatically for free be converted to PSA this. No, they didn't really change much.
Right.
They acquired them. They're a subsidiary. They're under the collector umbrella, the PSA umbrella, whatever, but business as usual. Why did PSA buy SGC? Well, SGC's market share, it used to be old, blue hairs used to grade their old ass vintage pre-war cards, right? With SGC. Well, now SGC appeals to a lot of young folks. Why? Because they're really fast and really cheap, right?
Yep.
That's not my slab of choice, but they are very popular, and their market share was growing very rapidly, much to the chagrin of Beckett. Like due to at Beckett's expense, SGC was growing. So PSA was like, well, here's one way to stop this. We'll acquire them. Boom. So now PSA is in the SGC game, and SGC keeps doing that. People are like, well, PSA is just going to acquire BGS. And I'm thinking to myself, that's apples and oranges. Yeah. BGS is a dwindling market share with no real hope on the horizon. Why would collectors jump into the BGS game? What is it about that would appeal to PSA? And can you think of a reason why they would just jump in and say, here, let me just stroke a check. Here, come under our umbrella. We'll take you on. And then maybe try to help with these things we're talking about, the customer service, the turnaround time, the communication.
Yeah, I can't think of anything from a business standpoint that Beckett offers collectors that they don't already have, right? In the past, you could maybe have said autograph authentication, right? Yes. Beckett was a leader in that. Not that they've fallen off in terms of authentication of autographs, but other people have caught up to them.
Yeah.
Where, a PSA DNA autograph card is respected just as well. And we've already talked about the value of the grades of the PSA cards. So like I sit there and look at it, if they were going to get acquired, I would have to think it would be, for it to be something that would be beneficial for the Beckett brand, it would have to be like Topps Fanatics being like, hey, we want grading kind of in-house type of thing, and creating some products maybe similar to like Flair Authority back in 2000, 2001, where like they're going to offer cards that are in packs that are already slabbed. And we've seen some of the stuff, I think Panini, what do they have, encased or something? Case. Yeah.
That was not well received, Jay.
It wasn't well received, but I'm just saying, like, having that as a functionality that you could add.
You know why it wasn't well received? You know why it wasn't well received?
Because people were getting bad grades?
Well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, they weren't all gem. That's dumb. They were BGS instead of PSA. That people didn't like, because by that point now everybody's already collected PSA. They didn't put subgrades on the damn things.
Oh.
They didn't put subgrades on a BGS slab. Like, who in the world would not put subgrades on it if you're going to put it into a product, and that's the reason you're going to sell that product? Like, put the freaking subgrades on there, man. It didn't make any sense. That in-case stuff, I mean, I may offend somebody, but that stuff failed miserably.
Yeah, well, and so to that point, like the removal of subgrades, we talked about at the very beginning. That's the special sauce for Beckett, right? Mm-hmm. The special sauce is we have subgrades and our 10 is better than anybody else's 10, right?
Yes.
That's the special sauce. The idea to remove the subgrades, even if they're trying to do it, hey, well, you can get it at a cheaper price point. So what?
Who cares?
Right.
How much cheaper? Is it free?
Right. Right.
You know?
Well, and that's the thing. You would have to cut the price for me to send a card of my own that I'm going to send to Beckett to get graded, to get it graded without subgrades. You'd have to offer it at least a 30% discount. And I would need to see that back in half the time that you give me a regular. And like, it just doesn't make sense because they're still grading it the same, right? Yeah. Somewhere in their system, they surely know.
You're just not pointing the laser at the label and spitting out the information. Why is that? I wouldn't even give people the option.
Well, that's what I
wouldn't.
That's
let
where
them
I was
do
going.
It.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly.
I just can't even look at them, man. I can't look at I've got 1,400 graded cards in my collection. I don't have a BGS card without subgrades in my whole collection.
I have two. Zero. I have two, and this is one of those things that I know I'm not the only. Back and get them. Give me my I'm not the only person that's had this experience. I sent both cards back. Both cards were not graded by me, but they were graded within 6 months of me purchasing them.
Yeah.
Right. So Beckett has UV protection. They have the inner sleeve that's supposed to protect. So you're protected from light. You're protected from any sort of rattling around. I don't know if somebody took a hammer to the card, but the slab is fully intact with no chips or anything like that. I sent it to them. I said, I just want this back with the subgrades. They told me both of these two cards would not grade the same. So then my response to that was, if I get a card that's in your slab, it has been graded in your slab for less than 1 year. If your slab can't protect it to be in the same condition for at least 1 year, what's the point of the internal slab and what's the point of the UV protection that you're claiming? It makes me question all of those aspects that I love about the slab. So to that point, these are two cards that I'm going to bring with me to Chicago this year, and I'm going to walk over to Nat. I'm going to say, hey, Nat, can I get an opinion? And I have no problem putting those back into PSA slabs because I don't want them in a Beckett slab without the subgrades, right? Weird. It does. It does. It's not desirable at all. And again, like you said, I would cut that offering out immediately, right? Yeah. So you don't. I don't know. I don't know how the process works internally, but if you have two different tracks that stuff with subgrades and stuff without subgrades go through, get rid of that one track. It's gonna save you money. It's gonna save you time, and those are two big things that we've already discussed are issues that they need to resolve.
You know, there's one card. You mentioned the explosion. There's one more card from the 90s that's really meaningful. It really matters that I would recommend sending for grading to Beckett over PSA. And you may share this opinion. It's the jambalaya because you get a head start because you get a 10 on corners.
Right.
You're starting from you're in a head start position. It's like if a bunch of runners, if you're racing Usain Bolt, wouldn't it be nice to get a 20-yard head start? Well, with the jambalaya, you got a 10 on 1/4 of your grade, so you're starting there, and then all you got to worry about is surface centering and edges. And edges obviously and centering of the problem with the jambalayas. So
I have seen a jambalaya.
So many BGS 9.5s and so few PSA 10s on the Jordan stuff at least, and then you see the price disparity where, from what I've heard, it's at least 5-1 PSA 10 versus BGS 9.5.
Just wild.
Yeah.
Wild. I have seen a jambalaya for some reason not get a 10 on corners from Beckett. Okay, I can't remember if it's a 9.5 or a 9. But again, I'm sitting there looking at it. I can't remember which one it was. I saw it as a picture online. So could somebody have doctored the picture just to kind of like create some outrage? Yeah. Maybe. But if I'm taking them at face value, I have to imagine that's a mistake that somebody made.
Yeah, that has to be a mistake.
Yeah, because there's no corners. It's not even like the 97 game jerseys where like they're slightly rounded.
Slightly round? No, there's
nothing.
Like
yeah, exactly. So I mean, for me, if I'm at the National and I'm belling up to a booth, let's say there's a card that I need in my collection and they have two copies and one's in a PSA slab and one's in a BGS slab. Let's say for argument's sake, the BGS is a 9 and the PSA is a 7. The prices are the same. Which one are you going to buy?
It depends on how important the card is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a grade snob. So if it's a card that's, in both of those grades is pop 50, 80, 100, a high pop card like that, I'm not buying either one.
Okay.
But if you made me pick one, I'd take the BGS 9 and try to cross it, okay? If it's a legacy collection, if it's a platinum medallion Jordan, if it's a 5-figure card, I am going to have a really hard time because I would either buy the 9, depending on how it looks, and try to cross. Either way, I'm not going to keep it probably in that grade if I buy the BGS 9.
Okay.
So it just depends on how rare the card is. If it's a PMG, I'm buying the PSA 7.
Yep.
If it's Playmakers Theater, I'm buying the PSA 7. And that's where Ty goes to the brand that gives you your money back if it's a fake card.
Right.
Hand raised. I've used that money back guarantee, and they gave me back full market value, dollar for dollar. I bought a fake Michael Jordan Platinum medallion in a PSA slab. They gave me back dollar for dollar value. Customer service was insane. I got my money back in like two or 3 weeks. I did a whole video about it. I couldn't believe it. Here's my card. It's fake. These people told me it's fake. Here's why it's fake. Here's the pictures. 3 weeks later, I had every single penny that I spent on that card back. From PSA.
Now, did they take and destroy that card? Do you know what they did with it?
That's my understanding, is that they did. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I asked them if I could have it back, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Can I have it back and sell it? Sell it raw
spread that
on
rumor.
eBay?
Right. Yeah. Can I have that back? I got a buddy that lives down the street in Louisiana. We could sell that card in 5 seconds. Right? Nobody knows face. They took the card. They obviously they wouldn't give me my money back until they had the card in their possession. So I sent the card in. They had it. They said it'll be destroyed, and that certain number will be removed, and the bottom report will be adjusted. So all of the bells and whistles.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's a big deal. Like when you're talking about you talk about a $25,000 card. Give me the PSA guarantee, man.
Yep. Now here's something I thought about. I had heard that in the past, PSA had an offering where if you let's say you cracked the PSA slab, right? Whether or not you sent it back in or whatever, you could take those, certs and send them back, and you get some grading credit, right? It was minimal. I think it was like maybe a quarter credit per, or maybe a tenth of a credit per. Do you think that would be a wise decision for Beckett to offer for people? If you return just the label portion, right? We're going to take the cert out. So, somebody goes and looks up that cert number. It's not going to show anything anymore. But we'll give you a credit so you can grade again with us. Do you think that would be something that people would latch on to?
I just think the ship has sailed. It would have to be a hell of a financial incentive for anybody to consider even. I don't know. I feel bad because the purpose of this episode was you and me to save Beckett, and we're failing. We would be bad CEOs, CDOs, chief visionary officers. We suck, Jake. I don't know, man. I don't know what can save Beckett right now, man. I think an acquisition with somebody put in place that's going to focus on improving internal operations and marketing the hell out of that brand. Subs and black label.
Yeah. I think, but it's going to take time, right? It's going to, because you're not going to make all those changes internally to the processes overnight. And you're not going to market it enough that it's going to be received like overnight, right? It's going to take time. And like stuff like you said, every time that a black label comes up for sale, pumping it, talking about it, right? Having somebody like Adam go and make a reel about it. Yeah. Asking people to make a whatever, and then sharing what the price of it was. Whether it was an all-time high compared to a PSA 10, but compare those prices to a PSA 10 the last time it sold, all that kind of stuff, right? Work with Card Ladder to get the data so you can share that type of stuff, and start making people aware of what a black label is and what it means. Yeah. And again, I think over time they can start making incremental gains. Because right now when I look at the gem rate reports, like it's dark,
ugly. Yeah, I think people are just waiting for them to die. Like PSA's not in the acquisition mode because they're like, wow, why do we need to acquire them? A year from now, they won't be in business.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things too that I sit there and wonder is like, what does their balance sheet look like?
Let me ask you, 2 years from now, I give you 5,000, you got to bet it, yes or no. 2 years from now, is Beckett in business? Is BGS in business? 2 years from now. Yes or no?
I think they're still in business, but I just think that they're a non-factor.
I say no. I don't think they're in business.
Yeah, and again, that's why I sit there and say, like, I just don't know what their balance sheets look like, because if you had asked me the same question 2 years ago, I would feel about the same. Like, kind of like, I don't
would've said
feel
the same
great.
thing 2 years ago too. That's a good
Right.
point. You're right. That's a good point, Jake. And here we
So
are.
like,
They're still in business.
yeah, how are they still in business? I don't
Yeah.
know. How are they still able to, pay their payroll? I don't know.
I don't either.
So that's one of those mysteries that I might never know.
This is the question that everybody that's watching this video is going to want to know. Guys that collect the 90s stuff like you and I collect it. I get this question a lot. Hey, Cajun, I saw you just bought a big, Michael Jordan card and a BGS 9.5 slab. Aren't you worried that Beckett's going to go out of business? And, I'm trying to figure out how to like verbalize to them. I'm not at all worried. I'm not at all worried that they're about to go out of business. Like, because I don't think it has any bearing on the value of that card that was legitimately graded by the leading grading company at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't think anybody questions the validity of the grading process or the history of the grading process or where Beckett has been in the hobby. It's not like they're like wrong and there's tons more fakes out there for Beckett. I don't think that that's the deal. I just think it's a dying product, and I don't think it's going to negatively affect the value of already graded BGS cards. If I did, I would just be buying all PSA, or I'd cross them all right now to beat the mad rush. But I just don't believe that, man.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if they, let's say tomorrow they institute a money back guarantee for everything that's ever been graded by BGS, right? That adds some value in the slab. If they go out of business, that value goes away, right? That would be something I would worry about. They don't have that, right? So with them not having a money back guarantee, you're just relying on the fact that they accurately graded the condition of the card. Yep. And that I'm confident in, right? When I sit there and I pull out a card that I have, that, the 7 that I was just talking about, I'm confident that if I took this and I sent this out to SGC or PSA to get it in one of their jumbo slabs, it would get at least a 7, right? If not better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, we did talk about PMGs, right? PMGs are different. I had heard rumors that stuff like that's highly condition sensitive, there was a time where they would grade it on a curve. Now, I don't think that's the appropriate thing, but having the knowledge as a collector, what are the condition sensitive sets that were prominent PMGs that might be affected by that? Okay, you can make an educated decision about that. But I think the market also has made a decision on that. You can see that prove out in the prices. So yeah, if let's say we go to the National this year and there's an announcement, hey, Beckett's not going to be here, and then we hear Beckett's closing up shop. I don't think that impacts the traffic on the floor for Beckett slabs at all.
I don't think there's going to be a mad rush for people to get out of the Beckett game on or already graded cards. And here's the flip side, and I'll give you my sales pitch of why it might have a positive effect on Beckett slabs, because the pop report can't go up if they're not in business. And so if there's 13 Jambalaya BGS 9.5s, guess what? There's going to be 13 Jambalaya BGS 9.5s for eternity. Why? Because they're not in business anymore.
Yep.
So that's the flip side. The issue is we're trying to prognosticate whether it will have an effect on the demand for already graded BGS cards. That's the variable. The other variable is supply. That will become stagnant, which I think will be a good thing for long-term card value. But the question is, what effect will it have on the demand for the cards? It won't affect guys like you and me, because we know what the Beckett brand used to mean and the quality that it represents. But it might mean something to new collectors. It already means something to new collectors because all they know is PSA. Right. If you're a COVID bro and you came in during the free money and you spent your PPP, government loan money on cards, I promise you weren't buying Beckett cards. You were either buying SGC or PSA 10s only, right? Because that's what Gary V and everybody else said to do. Buy the PSA 10, buy the silvers because the base are too common. Buy the silvers, the rare silver prisms. So that's what we're seeing right now, Jake. In the 90s stuff, even on your stuff. I mean, I collect Jordan, and that's its own beast. But in the 90s basketball card stuff, we're getting new money, right? Nouveau riche coming back to the 90s, looking for low pop, rare stuff to collect like the big boys do. But they're bringing with them that kind of perception that it's PSA 10 or bust. So that's why you're seeing PSA 10 stuff in the 90s go ballistic.
Crazy.
PSA 8 and 9 are still doing slow and steady, right? Slow and steady. But the PSA 10 stuff is going crazy. It's that new money. And they come back and they bring their rules with them. And it's PSA 10 or bust. PSA 10 or bust. If it's not PSA 10, I don't want it.
Yep.
And so then you get a couple people pushing up the prices of those PSA 10s.
Yeah.
So, maybe with education and with understanding and experience, even some of those folks that come back will start to understand. All right, Playmakers Theater, StarQuest Gold, yeah, BGS 8 is fine with me.
Right.
PSA 7 is absolutely fine with me on some of these crazy cards that everybody wishes they had. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key. I think marketing and through the marketing, educating the consumer is the first thing that they have to do to right the ship. And then everything else, you can start adding that stuff on afterwards. But, you put it on a set registry, it doesn't matter if people don't care about your grades,
Yeah. Yep.
So I think we solved it.
We did nothing. We solved nothing. We just threw about 12 more questions out there.
Yeah.
Maybe the people that watch the video will comment and have some great ideas on, how to rejuvenate Beckett and how to revive a once thriving company that's become, sort of an afterthought.
I would love it. Hopefully there's some positive that comes out of this.
Yeah, it's very
sad. But if
sad.
nothing,
We
was
do
fun to
another
talk
whole
about.
video on the old Beckett price guides because I will start crying on your channel. If we start
Oh, my
talking
goodness.
about those old Beckett price guides, I will literally cry on this channel. And you will
I have the thick annual one that comes out for basketball. I'll get a new one like every 4 or 5 years because there's just so much good information in there. But yeah, I mean, oh man, I could pull out some old ones that I've kept around. Great.
Walking into those local card shops on a Saturday morning, seeing the new Beckett out, just like a cocaine addict. Can't wait to see what's got up arrows.
Yeah, right.
What's got 2 up arrows? What's on the hot or cold page? You remember those days?
Oh yeah.
I wish we could go back to those days.
I remember in the playoffs, the Timberwolves made a big run, and Troy Hudson was on the hot list.
Yeah.
And I was going through all my common boxes to find any Troy Hudsons to get rid of them. I'd trade them to anybody that would take them.
The hell with you, first of all. The Beckett price guide that I'm talking about, Troy Hudson was probably not born. Okay, I'm talking
he was still
about
in diapers.
I'm looking for the 1980 Ricky Henderson when it was $30. That's what I'm looking for, man.
Yeah.
No Troy Hudson. The Timberwolves franchise definitely didn't exist when this old dude was going into those local card shops.
Oh, come on. The Sam Vincent rookies?
Huh?
The Sam Vincent rookies? You were
going for them? Picking up some Sam Buoys, you never know. Just prospecting. You know what? I went into a local card shop here in town, a good friend of mine, and I know all the local card shop owners. There's only 2. And you know what I was really happy to see? You'll remember this. They were selling individual packs. And so kids could come in and instead of having to buy a $180 box, they could buy an individual pack. And they had about maybe 60, 70. And they used to be in those clear cases where you would just pull the pack out. Now, we know why that's a little iffy because case hits. Once the case, you don't know if the case hit's been pulled or not, right? If you're not buying a sealed box or case. But it was affordable stuff, and I was glad to see that, and it brought back memories of back in the day when I was trying to choose between 87 Fleer, 87 Tops, and 87 Donruss.
Those are the days.
By the pack, give me 5 of each for $1.50 or whatever it costs.
Yeah. Oh, those. Oh, we could go. I know you've got a hard stop coming up, so I don't want to get because we could go into this deep nostalgia of going into our childhood card shops and all the memories because those are good. But this was a blast. I appreciate you coming on to talk about our hope for the Beckett brand. And hopefully there's some positive change coming. We won't hold our breath though.
I hope that one day I will feel the urge to send a card to Beckett to get graded, and there's a reason to. Right now there's not. I hope one day there is.
I'll tell you this because we're at the very end. I have 2 free Beckett submissions waiting for me to redeem in my email.
Yeah.
I've had them there for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Haven't used them yet.
Not a good sign.
It's not because I don't want my cards. The cards I would send, I don't want them sitting there.
And you don't want it. That's not good.
Yeah, I don't want them. I don't want my cards gone for 9 months.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
oof,
it's a bad sign.
Yep.
We'll end it on that positive note.
The title for this on your channel needs to be Jake doesn't want your free money, Beckett. That's what this Dear Beckett, keep your $50.
Right.
Clickbait.
Oh, I'm sure everybody will click on that.
Yeah. Man, thanks for
Awesome.
having me on the channel. You
Thanks for
are
coming.
definitely gonna be on my channel soon. More than once a year, I promise. And we'll talk some more about some 90 stuff because we could do that all day long. But I'm always at your service. If you ever want me on for any reason whatsoever, maybe next time it'll be more uplifting, positive type stuff. But I'm always willing, man. So all you got to do is say the word.
For sure. Definitely. And we'll chop it up in Chicago too.
That's it. All right, Jake.
All right.
See you,
Thank you.
brother.